So there's a couple of things. Let me start with some good news. A judge, well, let me just read this. No individuals associated with the left who engaged in far-right speech and violently suppressed the protected speech of Trump supporters were charged with a federal crime for their part in starting riots at a political event. This is textbook viewpoint discrimination. Are you ready? That was said by a judge in California. He threw the charges out from two far-right political agitators, saying this is selective prosecution. Now, these two guys, I don't know if they're necessarily, I don't consider Nazis far-right, but maybe you do. But they're white nationalist group. I shouldn't say Nazis. They're a far-right white nationalist group. So they're people I really don't like. Kind of like the people in Antifa. I don't like them either. So what the charge was is these guys were holding a rally, and the Antifa guys came with, all the things that they do, intimidated and beat some of the people in this. Police came, only arrested the far-right people, not anybody in Antifa. And a judge said, nope, sorry, can't do it. Not going to do it. If you didn't arrest the other side, you can't arrest these guys. I think that is a step in the right direction. That's what I've always been saying. Well, look, wait a minute. January 6th, why did you arrest all of those people when you had people stealing, breaking windows, burning cities, and none of those people were arrested?
Yeah, I think my preference would be everyone on both sides gets arrested for burning things down.
No, that's not my preference. That's the way America is supposed to work.
Yeah, but my secondary choice would be nobody does. I mean, It should at least be fair.
Correct.
However, I would like all of the people that burn things to the ground or start riots or beat the heck out of police officers. They should all go to prison. I'm fine with that.
Let me give you this now. Bump stocks, Supreme Court. The justice has heard the case to repeal an executive order from Donald Trump. Or was it an executive order, or was it just redefining guidelines?
Yeah, it was that type of thing, where there was it was an administrative change. This thing we've already approved for 8 years, what if we don't approve it anymore?
Right.
What if we let a guy build an entire business based on this thing that we were okay with, and then just pull the rug right out and make him send, 80 pallets of unused and unsold bump stocks to be melted down? What if we do that instead?
So one of the worst things that I think Donald Trump did in his administration was just use that executive administrative branch just to single-handedly say, nope, can't do it. Yeah, Supreme Court looks like they're torn usual lines, but there's a chance the bump stocks survive.
The ban, you mean? Yeah. I mean, it's weird. The way the case is set up is basically the question of they should have at least passed a law to do this. Yes. If you want to get rid of bump stocks, you need to pass a law to ban bump stocks. You can't just do it. And I don't know. That to me seems overtly obvious.
Yes.
However, I don't even think the law, if it was passed, would be constitutional. That's maybe me being a Second Amendment extremist or something.
That's the way the Constitution and our system of government is supposed to work. You can pass a law and it's not constitutional. Go back and rewrite the law to make it constitutional if you can.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, or maybe just take the advice that it's not constitutional and don't try to do it again. But I grant your point that it at least would be a normalized process.
Correct.
Instead, what they did was basically say, I don't want these.
It's the administrative state.
Yeah, it's bad on both sides.
I don't know how to convince people that this is one of the biggest problems we have in America. Congress doesn't do their job. They're not required to anymore. Many of them are in there fighting to do a job, but everything is a backdoor deal that you got to rush to sign, and then it just gives more power to the agencies, where the agencies can say, oh, no, you know what? We have this guideline. Why don't we write it to include this?
Yeah. And look, I get the motivation here. I mean, this is the worst mass shooting that was not government involved in history,
Right.
and it was really, really a bad incident. But the emotions of that incident do not overwhelm our system of government.
Right.
And they like, this is just completely unfair. They changed tens of thousands of U.S. citizens into felons overnight.
So there's another court case that the Supreme Court yesterday said they were going to take up. I think this is good news, and not just politically good news. The real question here is presidential immunity. Does the president, is he immune from a criminal trial for things that he did as president, not while president, as president? The answer to me would be yes. No trial because that should have been stopped by Congress or the Supreme Court or whatever. As an official act, we shouldn't have a bunch of people putting their hands in their pockets going, well, I was just following orders. No. If it's illegal, no. Stop it. But can the president do an official act and then be held in criminal court? If that happens, you will just continue to be able to prosecute any president that's running a second term.
And I think pretty much the line is set that while president, like if you do something as president and you're currently still president, the answer to this is pretty much they can't throw you in prison while you're a president of the United States.
No.
That's been at least the guideline.
No, but it is also a separation of if the president murdered somebody while he was president, he should go to prison. You know what I mean?
Right. I would agree with that.
Somebody
yes.
while he was president.
Right. However, I believe the way that would play out is he would need to be impeached first and removed from office, and then he would be thrown in jail. At least it's not like a constitutional. It's not in the Constitution. It's there's not a founding reference towards this, but the guidelines they've used is when you're actually operating as the chief executive, we can't take you out of that room.
Well, yes, and the thing with Biden is Biden's crimes were before he was president. Mm-hmm. So,
but still, like if they went to this level of they found enough evidence and they decided they were going to criminally convict Biden, he would have to be impeached and removed before he dealt with the punishment of that. And when he was removed from office, he would then be able to be go through the trial as a normal person would.
So here's the ramifications of this decision. Can Donald Trump be held now in a criminal case for his acts as president? The answer has always been no. Always been no. Otherwise, you're president if he decides to execute military operations and somebody says that's illegal, then it has to go to a court. It would be very bad for the presidency. It would just completely gut our president. This goes to the trial now that everybody's so excited to hear. All right, so the Supreme Court is hearing this, which would stop, or at least because they're going to hear it, slow down the Jack Smith trial on Donald Trump, which trial?
Oh, which trial is it? So this is you've got four major ones, right? You've got the January 6th. There's two of those. You've got the federal one, which is the Jack Smith, and you've got the Fonnie Willis one in Georgia. Mm-hmm. Then you have the other two, which are the New York with Alvin Bragg, and you have the documents case in Florida. Those are the four. And it's like, I don't know, Glenn, tell me if I'm wrong on this. I think Trump's in the best position he's been in since all of this started right now.
Oh, everybody has been saying, I don't know if I could vote for Donald Trump because he might go to jail. At this point, there's a good shot none of this comes to anything.
Especially before the election.
Yeah, before the election, it won't now.
Right, because if you think about the four of them individually, you have one is the Alvin Bragg, Stormy Daniels thing, which everyone acknowledges is the weakest case. He's got all sorts of ridiculous, laws he's bending to even bring the case in the first place. It makes no sense. Everyone, even on the left, kind of blew that one off as frivolous. Then you have the documents.
And even if he is convicted of that,
I don't know that moves any votes.
He won't lose any votes because it's just such a sham.
Yeah, and plus people knew that story already, blah, blah, blah. So second is the documents case. And look, there's a lot of evidence against him on that, on how especially how he handled it when they asked for the documents back. He fought it and potentially did not tell them the truth about it. Does he wind up getting convicted of that? It's possible, but what person, picture the Trump voter with the Trump sign in their lawn, and then they're just like, they walk out one day and say, I'm ripping this thing out of the ground. That man stored documents improperly. I just don't believe that person exists. I don't know. I could be wrong. I just don't care how he stored documents, frankly.
The insurrection or stealing the election.
Those could be big.
Those are big.
Those could be big, but think about what those two are. One of them is now being delayed until April, just before it could even be heard. Nothing can happen from now till April. April 22nd.
Right.
Then the Supreme Court hears it.
But after it's heard, their decision won't come out until June.
Right. So now you're all the way to June before they can even start this thing. I mean, maybe they try to put this in August. I mean, the conventions are going on. I mean, we are deep into the election at this point. Maybe they'll still try it, but it's going to be very difficult and really amps up all of the problems with trying to persecute your opponents even more. And then the last one is Fani Willis, which is completely falling apart. I mean, the text that came out from this lawyer who was texting the lawyers of the defense saying, yes, absolutely, this happened in 2019, and I'll tell you exactly where they met. And then he's on the stand saying, I don't know, I'm just speculating about that, which is not what he was doing. He was given multiple chances to correct the actual filing about this and said there was no problem with it. I mean, and that's just what we know so far. I mean, they completely lied to the court.
So far, there are 3 attorneys that should lose their license.
Yeah, at least, probably.
At least. And personally, I think they should pay a very hefty fine and possibly. I think Fani Willis and her boyfriend absolutely should go to jail. They were defiant. They knew what they were doing. They didn't even have to test. She didn't even have to testify about it, but she wanted to. She walked on that stand with the intent of lying. Gone.
And everyone I talk to is like, nothing ever happens to these people when this happens. There's no justice. I mean, and that may be true, but I will say this judge in particular was a member of the Federalist Society. He was appointed by a Republican. He seems to have the right approach here at the very least. I don't know. Maybe we'll still be disappointed, but he doesn't. I don't think he's just taking this as like, oh, I can't wait for to give Fani Willis a free pass on this. I don't think that's his approach. We will see how this turns out. I don't know for sure, but all of these things, at the very least, Trump is going to have a really good argument, even if he gets convicted in the Georgia case, to come out like, these people are obviously corrupt.
Correct.
And it won't be one of those reflexive defenses where you're just like, you're complaining about everything. They're going to have a really good case that this was corrupt.
And the other one, if it makes it to court, is in the District of Columbia.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I don't know.
I think he's had a great week. Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I think he's had a great week.
I mean, a lot of this stuff is going to cost him money probably in the long run, but, and when it comes to this election, I think he's in the best position he's been in a very long time.
Once again, the media seems to be in the position of, we got him this time, we got him this time we got him. Oh, crap, maybe we don't have him.